gladly pay you by the hour for a minute or so, so you can sign off on the towers where they'll piss on your home. And if you feel like you're just powerless to answer them no, it's 'cause you are. They'll gladly pay you by the hour for a minute or so, so you can sign off on the towers where they'll piss on your home. And if you feel like you're just powerless to answer them no, it's 'cause you are. It's 'cause you are. They'll gladly stagnate a living wage, snap the chains, bury it. Labor slaves in rusty cages dragged behind a chariot, led by Mr. Racial Jungle, Joseph R. Iscariot, fighting over scraps as they barrage us all with variants and BuzzFeed clickbait, straight until we're paralyzed, trying to distract us from the concentration camps that Joe had swore he'd close but only chose to amplify, where they got 50-something kids in cages made for 5 to occupy. And no, she hasn't seen the camps, but Harris swears they're paradise. She tells us the facilities are safe, and that right down to the women, they are regularly sterilized. Then she throws her head back and she proceeds to laugh, that sort of heartless cackle you'd expect from someone working steadfastly on behalf of the virus and a Congress full of parasites. And where was I? I was busy cashing every blue check, demonstrating plainly all the narratives expected from the verified. I was busy breeding verbal leeches by the terabyte. Train them to exsanguinate the wealthy while they sleep at night. Bleed the oil barons dry and barren, say they showed us how to share and now we share alike. Tell them I contracted rabies from a feral mic. Now I'm just another species losing sleep to noise pollution and these glaring lights, forced to change its habits and adapt to just survive. But now it's safe to say that some of us are thriving in the moment, throwing shit on presidential homes beneath the Paris skies. So if you feel like you're just powerless, I guess you bought the lie. But I can tell they're petrified of our collective might, 'cause I can hear those gentrifiers weeping at the sight of our collective rights. And I only can imagine the intensifying fear of knowing revolution's near, and all that's left to do is simply wallow in the thick anticipation of a rabid bite. And baby, one day you can ask your leaders just what that was like before you grab a slice. So if you think you're powerless, allow me now to change your mind. Honey, if you think you're powerless, allow me now to change your mind. See, they'll pay you hourly, tax them each apart, and build a shining tower out of loopholes and cards, and tell you that you're powerless to keep you in the dark, because you aren't, because we aren't. You see, they'll pay you hourly, tax them each apart, and make you build a shining tower out of loopholes and cards, where they'll tell you that you're powerless to keep you in the dark, because you aren't, because we aren't. I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry. My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter, and tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters in every well-planned wide-pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry. Close-up view of the Camry, slow pan up on the Camry, long slow zoom to the unmoving human who's up in the front with the tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself, let alone for his family.
Who are these people?
It's a blue pill mindset that spent 2020 making dance beats.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride, and thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
Ignorance is bliss, which explains why a lot of us are so fucking happy. Quick to take the trip for all its trappings. Never one to ask what's up, what's going on, or God forbid what's happening. A lot of us would strap into the ride and then spit right in the eye of the guy whose job it is to snap your fastenings. But maybe we're all born with that capacity. Maybe each of us comes standard with humor, compassion, malice, and audacity. Some of us are blind to the system, but some see it fine and say this is how it has to be. Some of us can stare wide-eyed at a nationwide human catastrophe and only offer platitudes and recipes. And I wish that I could tell myself that nothing's worth obsessing past my everyday necessities. I wish that I could cry fake news over anything that threatened me, tune out our abuses and consume a little levity. Wish that I could offer up my son a smoother destiny. Wish I had some better lessons for how best to answer questions for the things I've been perpetually questioning. But I'm too busy looking at our leaders, wondering what I might be missing from their messaging. Trying to find the reasoning to let 250,000 people meet an early reckoning. And even though I know the truth, it's hard to swallow something that's so literally sickening. Hope is ever dwindling, COVID ever beckoning. Winter slows your breathing, but your pulse is ever quickening. Even though I know the truth, it's hard to keep listening. I'm done with my epiphany, my innocence is blistering. I'd like to think I'd taste the earth before I'd ever kiss the ring. Hard to speak the truth and harder still to keep listening.
Sometimes I think I miss being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My lips, brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their Visa Maxes. Topple Congress off their axis, mobilize the homeless, give them axes, call it praxis. Chop a couple limbs off the legislative branches. We'll show you the difference between air as a human right and guaranteed oxygen access. Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are culling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance. And all to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent. So I got a bone to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the ligaments. Pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted from their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in. And what happens next will survive in only text, cause there won't be any evidence. There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. Let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment. We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman. Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time.
IndependentLeft.news.
Independent Left News.
Indie Left News.
Independent Left News.
Oh yeah, and I get news from Independent Left.
Thank you, IndependentLeft.news.
They actually put up posts of different shows, different things going on.
Check out Indie Left. They're doing a lot of good things. They're on Twitter and Instagram, and they've helped promote our show a lot.
Thanks for the work you do behind the scenes, too. This man does our Discord and some other help, so I just love to shout him out. Thanks so much, man. Yeah.
They kind of really do a great job of pushing.
Thank you, Independent Left, for reminding me of that.
Check out IndependentLeft.news.
IndieLeft.news.
Indie Left, shout out.
What's happening, everybody? It is Sunday night, and it's Indy, and it's Reef over here, and it is, how did we miss that? Oh my God, we're here for another week again. And it has been an exhausting, crazy, fun, and sometimes really upsetting week, but also inspiring week. So we're here to do some stories. Reef is freaking out because his stream tech's not working yet, and we're going to see what we can do to get that going. Thank you so much for the raid, Radical Leftist Agenda. Nikki, what's going on? I can do my little spiel in the process. I can even turn Reef off if he really gets mad and he wants to slam the computer keyboard or something, but I think that would be entertaining. I might want to have to do a single on Reef for that. So welcome everybody to How Do We Miss That? How Do We Miss That is a show airing on Rockfin, YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, and Odyssey, Telegram. Also, we're live. Oh, I have to hit the button on Telegram. That's right. No, we're live on Telegram. Sunday nights, 10 o'clock Eastern. That's now, 7 p.m. Pacific. Reviewing a few big stories that we haven't seen covered much in independent media channels this week. And it's co-hosted by Indy. That's me. I'm the founder and editor of IndependentLeft.news and Leftist.today. That's a Substack. And then I got this guy, Reef Breland, and he's the creator of the Jimmy Dore Discord, and he's the host of Reefer After Dark, INN News, and of course the technical director over at IndieNews.Network, and we're both founding members of the IndieNews.Network, which is a collaborative family of 23 independent content creators, and all the stories that I'm going to cover tonight were featured in Independent Left News this week. Please share this link, like the stream, tell people about it, subscribe wherever you are on all the platforms. We're also on podcast. So again, we're on like 10 different places. We're even live, self-hosted on independentleft.news. So you don't even need to watch on a platform if you don't want to. A lot of our donors and contributors and big fans, we really thank them in the scrolling ticker. But I did also want to shout out some of our volunteers and our staff members. Big Mad Crab did the thumbnail for tonight. It's killer. And he's our creative director over at INN. So thank you, Big Mad Crab. Greg, Phantomos Fanto doing our editing, doing all the clips, and he's a clipping machine. Really appreciate you for that. We got Fred Edward and Chris Gilman over on the Twitters and the Facebooks sharing like crazy. And tonight Dolores also was sharing, and really thank you for that. So want to get into some stories because I have 5 stories tonight. You guys are going to kill me because there's a couple long ones, but they're, again, really important. I think that we need to cover them. So that's why we're doing this.
You're sharing your application, FYI.
Am I really? See, rookie move by Indy. We have to fix that and share my screen and change windows. See, we're doing it live. We're doing it live, folks. Screen 4. Here you go. Now you can see the slideshow.
There it is.
Okay, doke.
Yep.
And just thank you to everybody in chat already. We got 20 people watching live here. Plus, we got Rockfin, Rumble, Odyssey. We're live on Odyssey. We're live in Telegram. Everywhere. Tell everybody. Tell your friends. Okay, let me hit the button. And let's go to our slideshow. And you can see we got our nice little chat up in the corner. Wanted to give a shout out, by the way, to few people that have had some friends and some family members had some trouble. So if you can hook them up at all with any kind of donations. Okay, we got Warren, linktr.ee/extra booyah. We've got Angel Rivera also, the handsome cynic. He's been going through some stuff, and his nephew was in the hospital for seizures lately. And then this weekend, our friend Jesse, also his son was there for some blood oxygen stuff. Again, I don't want to get too into it, but just if you can help them out, if you can support their work, if you can share their stuff out, if you can get some people helping them out, that'd be really appreciated. And love you guys for that. Again, let's get to the stories. So this is from our friend overseas, Eva Bartlett. The West is silent as Ukraine targets civilians in Donetsk using banned Petal mines. What? How is this possible? So this was actually published. She publishes on RT, but she also put it on her own inGaza and Beyond. And she's showing here, these are what these Petal mines look like. And I'll show you a couple more. She's got a couple more pictures in here as well. And she writes an article about that on Saturday, July 30th, just after 9 p.m. Thunderous explosions rocked central Donetsk shortly after there were announcements that air defense had shot down Ukrainian-fired missiles containing Petal mines. That, given that over 300 of these explosives are packed into each of the Ukrainian-fired rockets, central Donetsk could literally become a minefield if they successfully landed. And social media telegram warnings urged residents to stay inside, wait for emergency services to clear the streets, which they began doing throughout the night. But come daylight, untold numbers of these tiny devices still remain. More warnings were issued to stay at home, better to be late for work than lose a leg. Residents that absolutely have to go out are advised to keep their eyes down, watch where they step, avoid grassy areas, and walk extremely carefully. Wow. Okay, and here she's showing just some of the pictures of spots that were identified and several groups of mines. While Ukraine has been using these mines on Donbass for many months, in recent days they've intensely bombarded neighborhoods with them. Initially targeted were the hard-hit districts of Kievsky in the north, Kirovsky in the southwest, and Kubishevsky in the west. I'm butchering that probably, but I'm gonna go with it. But as of Saturday night, Ukraine hammered central Donetsk with them too. Happy birthday, Anthony, by the way. And now walking in the city center is a nightmare, one that Eva herself has personally had to endure. How widespread these mines are in central streets and walkways, near apartments and parks.
I know Lip talked about seeing them too.
Yep. All All right, and I think George also Eliason also talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Yep.
as it turns out, the petals are not only widespread, but also often very difficult to spot, even if warning signs have been placed right next to them. Their small shape, dull color blends in with surroundings, and if you aren't actively looking at the spot you're in, you could easily miss them. When walking, you learn to avoid any objects that could be covering a mine and tread only on bare streets or sidewalks, which is sad. The first bunch of mines that she saw were circled in chalk, warning sign placed in front of to keep cars from driving over them, people stepping from stepping on them. All right, this was on a central Donetsk street, a residential area with shops and a park nearby. Why weren't they cleared? The entire area was littered with the petals. DPR sappers worked methodically, clearing area by area, but given that hundreds of the mines were dropped all over the city, this is painstaking work. Yeah, they need like explosives crews. So this was again on August 1st, uploaded these videos in two parts of what the soldiers are doing in clearing the area of the Petal mines. Near some apartment blocks, numerous mines have been found, and warning signs had been put out. Danger, mines, and it said that by the tiny explosives circled with chalk or a tire or whatever was available to draw the eye to its presence. But on many occasions, looking at the area designated as containing a mine, it took me a good while to actually see it. Now imagine if there were no signs at all, a bloodbath for civilians and animals too, since it doesn't take significant weight to set them off. So what is a petal mine? Well, it's around the size of an average cigarette lighter. The petals are tiny but still very powerful. A clip shared on Telegram illustrates this. A DPR soldier chucks a tire at one of the mines and the tire is flung high in the air from the blast. It doesn't take a powerful imagination to estimate what would happen if a person stepped foot on one of them. The explosives are placed via remote delivery methods, meaning they can be spread by mortar, missile, or artillery dropped by helicopters and planes. That's literally how big they are.
Yep.
Okay. According to DPR Emergency Services, Ukraine is using Hurricane MLRS-fired rockets to spread the mines. Each contains 12 cluster munitions. Each cluster has 26 mines inside, so each bomb has 312 mines. The cluster explodes in the air, disseminating them widely, scattering them in different directions. Their butterfly-like design enables them to glide and land without exploding, usually. Then they lie in wait for someone with bad luck to step on. Some of these anti-personnel mines have a self-destruct timer. Others, including the ones Ukraine is firing, have a years-long shelf life. They do pretty much no damage to military vehicles, and therefore their use in Donbass is insidious, deliberately targeting civilians to leave them maimed. On July 30th, in a densely inhabited working-class district of western Donetsk, in a field with garden plots for nearby apartment residents, Eva herself saw the same nefarious mines. Originally scattered, they had been collected and awaited destruction by DPR emergency services. In the large courtyard of an apartment complex, she watched from a safe distance as emergency services timer detonated 8 mines they had found around the grounds. The day prior, they had destroyed 26. Another 150 were located and destroyed using a radio-controlled minesweeper. But there remains much to be done to restore the streets and courtyards to safety. So since the mines were scattered on Saturday evening and the DPR representative office at the JCCC has created an interactive map showing the areas most contaminated by the mines, giving residents a general warning of which areas to avoid while walking or driving it. While some cars have been lucky enough to only have a tire blown out, were the mine to detonate near the gas tank, the entire vehicle could explode. Of course.
Yeah.
Multiple civilians have been killed by these mines since they were scattered over Donetsk, and even now, wounded civilians are still coming to the city's hospitals. According to Vadim Onoprienko, the deputy director of a trauma surgery center, 10 amputations have been performed over the last week. Victims of Saturday's mines, and ones that have been dropped earlier, one of whom was an 83-year-old man.
Jesus.
Now, who's doing this? Well, unfortunately, all evidence, according to Eva here, points to Ukraine. So pro-Ukrainian commentators are unsurprisingly blaming Russia. Journalists claiming to care about civilians are perpetuating Ukrainian propaganda, saying that Moscow's forces are scattering the mines over civilian areas. Never mind the fact that these territories are controlled by Russia's allies, so why would they? Among them is the would-be war hero Malcolm Nance, who temporarily abandoned his job as a notoriously anti-Russian MSNBC analyst to apparently actually fight the Russians in Ukraine. Oh, God. G.I. Bro, if I remember correctly, is our brother Daryl at INN, Black in the Empire, called him. Okay. So, here's butterfly mines. These toy-colored mines are designed to maim you by popping off toes or a foot. This is another war crime. Right. He's lying.
Oh, Malcolm just... yes, of course he is.
Right. It's Ukraine dropping them. And orcs? Come on, Nance. At least pretend to be a decent human. Right. Orcs. Okay. This is the kind of projection that she's seen ad nauseum when reporting from Syria and dealing with Western propaganda there. Okay. Ukrainian nationalists openly admit that they do not see the Donbass people as human and encourage their murder. Ukraine has been killing and maiming citizens in the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic for over 8 years, including firing cluster munitions into the heart of cities, targeting hospitals, markets, schools, busy streets. Given all this scattering butterfly mines over Donetsk, it's hardly surprising. It's criminal, but not surprising. So one argument used by pro-Ukrainian commentators is that Kiev has been destroying these mines under the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention, which it signed in 1999. However, out of the 6 million such mines they initially declared in its possession, only 2 million have reportedly been destroyed as of 2018. So, so here again is this Nina, a blue check. The EU and NATO were helping Ukraine destroy its Petal mine stockpiles as part of EU. Look how well that went with Donbass suffering from these for 8 years. And again, right there, they're talking about that, right? But then, how are they getting there? Russia's not making these Petal mines. They're not appearing from anywhere else. So, Ukraine has good reason to believe that it will not be held accountable for using them against civilians, given its Western backers and their allies' penchant for using prohibited weapons on civilians without repercussions, including Agent Orange in Vietnam, depleted uranium in Iraq and Syria, and white phosphorus and dart bombs in Gaza.
White phosphorus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the dart bombs were fucking... Anyway. Yep.
Yep. And the fact that Western media turns a blind eye is also a boon to Kiev. Right? So this is one of the Telegram channels that Eva had shared from that post. And actually, I zoomed in. It blends in so much to the grass. Like, I had to zoom in, and I couldn't even see it when I zoomed in. I was like, wait, I'm guessing that shadow is it? I mean, it's now, it's interesting because on stream that I'm seeing it on OBS, it actually does look, you can kind of see it stand out in that circle right there.
Yeah.
And that's funny. That black thing is actually a tree, but because I'm on against a green screen, it looks black. That's funny.
Yeah.
So again, I just wanted to showcase Eva's work. Please support Eva Bartlett. And I thought I had a graphic about Eva. She is an incredible writer. She's written for RT at Eva K Bartlett. EVAK Bartlett is her handle. I'll get some stuff together, and it's going to be all in the descriptions afterwards for sure. Welcome everybody to the chat. That was our first story talking about Ukraine Petal mines. And again, I want to shout out independent journalist Eva Bartlett, who is on Ukraine kill list. She is reporting from the Donbass right now. Ukraine is targeting her, and we are, hoping that she stays safe. Appreciate the work that she does and the effort and the commitment that she's got to bringing the story and telling the truth from on the ground and countering what the NATO narrative is, because otherwise, who's going to do that? Who's going to give you the truth from on the ground and in country that's English speaking, that we know has reported on these things in the framing that's anti-corporate, that's looking at it from an anti-corruption perspective, and that's got the receipts and it's done the work, and she's got the chops and the history. So again, oh nice, we got a decent number of people watching. This is great. Good to see everybody. Thank you so much. All right, so we got our next story. Woo! Okay, I guess this is probably what everybody's coming here for. I'm a big fan of Whitney Webb. Whitney Webb's got a book coming out next month, all about Les Wexner and his grooming of Jeffrey Epstein and others, and his role in the global trafficking network and everything else. So this week, Whitney actually published an article on Unlimited Hangout, which is long. It's an excerpt from the book, and I wanted to go through it. I want to go through half of it tonight because it is long. It's going to take me probably about 10 to 15 minutes just to get through that half, and then we'll cover the other half next week. I thought that would be good as an intro, and maybe one of these days the lovely, wonderful, incredible Whitney Webb would grace us with her presence, interview, and a conversation somewhere in INN, Indie Left, Friends of, how did we miss that, something, somewhere. That would be like beyond amazing. You know, we love and adore and admire her work, and please go support Unlimited Hangout. Go support Whitney's work. She is an independent journalist, and we're going to talk a little bit about who she is and her background and connections. Yes, she did get on Slow News Day. Yes, yes, that's her favorite show to go on. So I'm not going to try to compete with Scuba Steve and Slow News Day, but if she ever wanted to come on and grace us and give us that honor, I'd love it, and she's great. So anyway, so this excerpt from her upcoming book, Whitney is going to examine the Les Wexner Foundation origins and the ties of Leslie Wexner's philanthropy and Jeffrey Epstein's to Harvard, as well as the now infamous Young Global Leaders program at the World Economic Forum. And all the Harvard Young Global Leaders stuff happens in the second half. What we're going to cover tonight is all the setup to understand the background behind how they get to Harvard and the Young Leaders program. I call Whitney the encyclopedia. She is the dot connector. She knows who went to school with this guy and who's in this one's circle and who's on this one's board and who funded this and who dated that. And then she's involved in the trafficking again. So she's involved in knowing this. So again, the following is an adapted excerpt from Whitney's upcoming book, One Nation Under Blackmail, which examines the network behind Jeffrey Epstein and traces it back to the merging of American organized crime and intel beginning in the early 1940s. In this excerpt, Whitney examines the Wexner Foundation's origins and the ties of Wexner. Again, you saw what that was. That was the same thing. And you can order the book. It can be pre-ordered. Crab already did. A bunch of us already have. So this is the origins. It's hard to know exactly when the Wexner Foundation was originally created. The official website for the foundation states clearly in one section that the foundation was first set up in 1983 alongside the Wexner Heritage Foundation. However, the 2001 obituary of his mother, Bella, states that she and her son created the foundation together in 1973. Regardless of the exact year, Wexner's mother, Bella, became the secretary of the foundation, just as she had with his company, The Limited, which Wexner wanted people to refer to as joint philanthropy. Now, before we get to any of all of this, and it's funny, Les Wexner, The Limited, also, I believe, Victoria's Secret. So, you know, the story, The Social Network, the movie The Social Network, Justin Timberlake tells a story about a guy who buys Victoria's Secret, the brand, from a guy who ends up jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And the guy who bought Victoria's Secret was Les Wexner from the Limited Brands that turned it into a multi-billion-dollar business and, you know, whatever.
Right.
Pretty interesting stuff. Fascinating. All right, so.
Full documentary on that now, right?
I'm sure there is.
That.
Yes. Foundation's website states that the original purpose of the Wexner Foundation was to assist, quote, emerging professional Jewish leaders in North America and mid-career public officials in Israel. Jeez, I could have been involved with that, theoretically. I'm not. Per the website, Wexner's main philanthropic endeavors were created after Wexner reached the conclusion that what the Jewish people needed most at that moment was stronger leadership. As a result, Wexner sought to focus his foundation's attention chiefly on the development of leaders. And as a consequence of this, Wexner's programs have molded the minds and opinions of prominent North American as well as Israeli Jewish leaders who went on to work at the top levels of finance, government, and even intel. One of the Wexner Foundation's original advisors, and perhaps one of the most important, was Robert Hiller, who had previously been an executive vice president of the Council of Jewish Federations and Welfare Funds. Robert I. Hiller was described in the article The Baltimore Sun as a nonprofit leader who helped develop community fundraising strategies and was active in the Soviet Jewry movement. Now, again, I'm almost 50. I remember when I was about 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, there was a big effort in the Jewish community to acknowledge and to dedicate ceremonies to the Jews in the Soviet Union who were not allowed to practice because of communism. There was a big movement about that, and talking about how communism there had alienated Judaism as a religion. So as well as being known as a community development leader, Hiller was also an executive with the Community Chest of Metropolitan Detroit in 1948. In that position, Hiller helped bring together corporations such as GM to create social service groups under an umbrella organization, which is a precursor to collective fundraising efforts today. It's bundlers. In 1950, he became the associate director of the Jewish Community Federation of Cleveland, and 6 years later, he also joined the UJF of Pittsburgh. He'd spent another 9 years in that position before his move to Baltimore. Again, why is all of this relevant? Well, here's why. Because in his autobiography, he wrote about his extensive dealings with various Israeli heads of states, saying, I had pictures with every Israeli prime minister from David Ben-Gurion to Menachem Begin. I would have had many more with Begin, but because he was the current prime minister, my favorite picture, however, it was to be hung, was taken in D.C. at a gala party where Marianne and I were with the ambassador Yitzhak Rabin and his wife Leah. Okay, Hiller was extremely
Israeli name.
Well, you know,
yeah,
it helps. It helps.
You have the affliction for it.
It helps. It helps to be a member at some point. You know, at least an extended member. Hiller was extremely proactive when it came to seating suitable, high-ranking candidates for appropriate positions in Jewish community organizations, a task that the Wexner Foundation would later reproduce on a grand scale via its various fellowship programs and subsequently apply to the world's businesses and government. One example of this matchmaking was the appointment of Larry Moses as assistant to Rabbi Maurice Corson. Now, this Maurice Corson, you're going to learn about him. Corson is credited with having co-founding the Wexner Foundation with Leslie Wexner in 1983 per the foundation's website, and he served as its first president. After he left that post, Moses stepped in to serve as the foundation's president. So his assistant then steps in and becomes his successor. All right, this is Corson and Wexner in an undated photo, but this is clearly in the 80s. Hiller wrote in his autobiography that he had personally enticed Moses to become Rabbi Corson's assistant, and this later resulted in Larry Moses becoming the executive vice president of the Wexner Foundation. When Hiller was just 33 years old, he was presented with an opportunity to become a member of the Big 16, which was classed as an informal grouping of the 16 largest communities in North America, headed by prominent Jewish executive members. One of the people who Hiller connected with the Wexner Foundation was originally meant to lead the Big 16 Foundation, Fern Kettleman. Kettleman declined this prestigious leadership role in order to join Larry Moses, where he became assistant at the Wexner Foundation. It's all very incestuous, I have to say. Hiller, when revisiting
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, kinda. Hiller, when revisiting his life, would state, one of the most stimulating relationships I had with the Wexner Foundation of Columbus, Ohio, and New York City. Rabbi Maurice Corson was the foundation president. My relationship with him started in Baltimore, where he had been a new rabbi for one of the city's largest conservative synagogues. He came from Philadelphia with an interesting background and credentials. And that's, again, coming from Hiller's. So it's linking all these guys together in all these cities. Okay, Hiller goes on to write that he, however, seemed bored and uneasy with the routine of being a synagogue rabbi. When he and the congregation decided to part company, I assisted in getting him an executive position with the United Israel Appeal of Canada. He did so well that he was recruited to return to the USA in an executive position with International B'nai B'rith. Leslie Wexner met him through his work with B'nai B'rith, and when Les began to put together a formal foundation, he engaged Rabbi Corson as the chief executive. Right? B'nai B'rith, okay, according to Whitney here, is a Jewish fraternal organization that was founded in the 19th century and is modeled as a secret society, leading some to compare the group to the Freemasons. I don't know how secret they are. I don't know. I know that I saw stuff around my house when I was a kid, like letters and stuff that had that name on there, but I have no idea what it was linked to or tied to or anything. All right. Hiller went on to assist Corson in the initial stages of setting up the Wexner Foundation when they put together a distinguished advisory group, with the group meeting in Columbus, Ohio, and New York City. Hiller describes assisting Corson in creating the foundation, which Hiller called, quote, an unusual foundation with its own agenda and programming. So after several years of service to the Wexner Foundation, Hiller retired from his consultancy role and was replaced by Philip Bernstein, who's the former executive of the Council for Jewish Federations and Welfare Funds, the CJF. Again, one that we had talked about before. This is all people coming, successors from these organizations are continuing and following in the work. Now, it makes sense to examine Rabbi Maurice Corson himself. Here we go. Corson was a prominent Jewish educator who, as previously mentioned, already had associations with various Jewish welfare organizations prior to serving as co-founder and then president of the Wexner Foundation. Corson had been ordained as a rabbi in 1960 through the Jewish Theological Seminary, after previously studying at the University of Cincinnati, where he graduated in 1955. By 1964, he'd become president of the Religious Education Society in Seattle, and he remained in that position for another 2 years until 1966. Over the following decade, he began working for the Zionist Organization America in Atlantic City. Shortly thereafter, became senior rabbi at the Chizuk Amuna congregation. I don't even know where that is, a position he held from 76 to 79. So he keeps bouncing around. Around this time, he helped Corson. Hiller helped him get an executive position with United Israel Appeal of Canada, where he went on to work for only a year, again, before joining B'nai B'rith. So he's bouncing from organization to organization. He's one of their rising stars. He keeps getting brought up the chain. Once recruited into serving a leadership role within the influential secret society, again, I don't know how secret they are, but Corson worked as director of development for B'nai B'rith International, based in New York City, between 1980 until 1985. So he now parks for 5 years. He'd been bouncing all over the place. All right. During this very period, the board of overseers of B'nai B'rith included Edmund Safra, who's a notorious banker with close ties to Robert Maxwell and later Jeffrey Epstein. Those are pretty big names. Edgar Bronfman, he's scion of the family behind the Seagrams, whose fortunes have long been tied to organized crime. And Max Fisher, who's a Detroit businessman who launched the Jewish Agency, worked as a private diplomat on Israel matters, and later served as a mentor to Leslie Wexner. I believe, and I think it's going to talk about Max Fisher in a minute, I think he was involved also with that Charlie Wilson's war stuff in the 1980s.
Yeah.
As noted previously, while Corson was at B'nai B'rith, he first met Leslie Wexner, who persuaded him to co-found the Wexner Foundation, per the version of events on the foundation's website. Again, all this background is going to matter when you read the book. So you know who the players are and how they got to where they got to, and how Wexner acquired the kind of power to be able to build a network and influence that he did, but do it behind the shadows. Although he'd been recruited by Wexner and subsequently left the B'nai B'rith organization, Corson became a member of the executive committee of B'nai B'rith Hillel Commission in Washington in 1987. Again, bringing him back. He just when I thought I was out, they bring me back in. Another key
son of a bitch.
Another key figure who's important to mention is the co-founder of the Wexner Heritage Foundation, Rabbi Herbert Friedman. Depending on which part of the Wexner Foundation site you visit, that foundation is listed as having been founded in either, again, 1983 or 1985. However, Friedman's clearly listed as the co-founder of the foundation and having served as its president for a decade. Okay. The Wexner Heritage Foundation, per its website, was created, quote, to strengthen volunteer leaders in the North American Jewish community. Similar to prior other organizations, it spawned the Wexner Heritage Program, which provides young North American Jewish volunteer leaders with a 2-year intensive Jewish learning program, deepening their understanding of Jewish history, values, and texts, enriching their leadership skills. This all sounds actually decent. It's education and historical, except that we all know otherwise. Friedman was a U.S. Army chaplain during World War II and also served as, quote, an advisor to Jewish affairs during General Lucius de Clay, the commander of American occupation forces in Germany. He was later personally recruited by David Ben-Gurion, who went on to serve as Israel's first prime minister, to join the paramilitary group, the Haganah. The Haganah was the precursor to the Israeli military and was armed in large part by organized crime-linked networks. Per the New York Times, as a member of the Haganah, Rabbi Friedman participated in Aliyah Bet, the illegal transport of European Jews to Palestine. From 1954 to 1971, Friedman was the chief executive of the United Jewish Appeal, and in that role raised more than $3 billion to support the fledgling state of Israel. During this period, UJA was intimately involved in relaunching the relaunching of the Jewish Agency by Wexner's mentor Max Fisher in 1970, as we said. Fisher was also intimately involved with the related United Israel Appeal. Throughout the 1980s, Wexner was one of the largest individual contributors to the United Jewish Appeal in America. And after creating the Wexner Heritage Foundation with Friedman, he became UJA's vice chairman. Again, incestuous, all on sitting on each other's boards and influencing each other's organizations. While Wexner was serving in these capacities, he was also engaged in closed-door meetings with the highest levels of Israeli leadership, not just about quote-unquote philanthropy, but also about his business interests. One specific meeting saw him meet with top Israeli government officials about Chinese and Israeli interests, working with his company, The Limited, to establish factories in the occupied Golan Heights. Notably, the Wexner Foundation has direct controversial ties to at least one former Israeli head of state, Ehud Barak, who was intimately involved with Jeffrey Epstein and an alleged participant in his sex trafficking operation. As reported by Israel Today in 2019, quote, Barak's ties to the Wexner Foundation became an issue only after right-wing journalist Erel Segal called last October to investigate the $2.3 million research grant Barak received from the Wexner Foundation, which has in turn for years been the beneficiary of Epstein's financial contributions. According to Segal, the grant under question was given to Barak in 2004 to 2006 when he held no public position. Barak insists he had no authority to disclose details about this grant. Only the Wexner Foundation can if they so choose. And they, of course, choose silence. So we talk again about developing leaders. Set up simultaneously alongside the Wexner Foundation, Wexner's Heritage Program, the WHP, planned to connect American Jews with the ever-expanding nation-state of Israel. The program was created so as to expand, quote, again, it's very flowery language, expand the vision of Jewish volunteer leaders, deepen their Jewish knowledge and confidence, and inspire them to exercise transformative leadership in the Jewish community. Again, remember, all these guys are post-Holocaust, post-World War II, children of Holocaust survivors and grandchildren of Holocaust. They have been traumatized by their families, okay, and propagandized as well to a point. We all have been in this community. Foundation defines program as, quote, essentially a Jewish learning and leadership development program for volunteer leaders in North America, right? There have been to date around 2,000, quote-unquote, leaders who have taken part in this program. The WHP is a vehicle for standardizing a certain perspective on the history of Israel, as well as Judaic texts. The 2-year program is made up of 36 evening seminars, which occur bi-monthly for 4-hour periods, as well as 3 short-term and out-of-town summer institutes hosted in either the U.S. or Israel. Each of these summer institutes are between 5 and 7 days long and take place throughout the program. So these guys make a serious commitment to this.
Yeah.
As with other well-founded leadership programs, such as the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leader Program, the Wexner Heritage Program targets a very specific age group, aiming at professionals who are generally between the ages of 30 and 45 years old. Some of the the most important criteria required of program participants include a showing of demonstrated commitment to Judaism, the Jewish community, and or Israel, and a track record of leadership in Jewish communal life. So, the Wexner Foundation website claims that the 2,300 alumni of the Wexner Heritage Program are top lay leaders at the local, national, and international level. In the 35 cities where we've convened WHP cohorts, virtually every Jewish communal organization continues to be supported by our alumni. They become presidents or chairs of synagogues, federations, JCCs, Hillels, day schools, camps, and more. They're often founders or chairs of allocations or annual campaigns. They serve on the boards of JFNA, 70 Faces Media, the Foundation for the Jewish Camp, International Hillel, AIPAC, and J Street. We know them very well. The Shalom Hartman Institute, Pardes, Hardor, and every U.S. rabbinical seminary, the Jewish Education Project, Prisma, the JDC, and so many more. Like, everything at the top. Basically, if you're going to get involved at any kind of high level, these guys are going to have their claws into you at some point. Okay, it's worth noting that, and I don't want to use the word clause because that's, again, got all kinds of references. Again, I am a member of the Jewish community. I am not demonizing these people, but what they're doing is definitely not on the up and up. It's worth noting that of these aforementioned groups, the Wexner Foundation, and especially the Wexner Heritage Program, enjoys a particularly close ties to AIPAC. For instance, Elliot Brandt, AIPAC's National Managing Director, is an alumnus of the Wexner Heritage Program, and in a 2018 speech at that year's AIPAC Policy Conference, Brandt noted that most of the AIPAC National Board consists of Wexner Heritage alumni, not to mention its regional chairs and some of its most committed donors as well. The word infiltration keeps coming to mind. And there is Elliot Brandt and the wonderful Alan Dershowitz at the 2017 AIPAC Policy Conference. Wexner's close ties to AIPAC on a different tone take on a different tone when one considers not only his close association with the Israeli intelligence-connected Jeffrey Epstein, but also the fact that AIPAC itself has had long-standing and controversial ties to Israeli intel. For instance, AIPAC was at the center of an Israeli espionage scandal in the U.S. in the mid-1980s, as well as again in 2004, when high-ranking Pentagon analyst was caught passing highly classified information over to Israel's government via top officials at AIPAC. I believe his name is Jonathan Pollard, if I remember correctly. Despite extensive evidence, particularly in the latter case, AIPAC avoided charges. As journalist Grant Smith at the time noted, the Department of Justice's chief prosecutor on the AIPAC espionage case, Paul McNulty, was suddenly and inexplicably promoted within the DOJ after he backed off on criminally indicting AIPAC as a corporation. The charges against specific AIPAC officials involved were also mysteriously dropped. How about that?
Yep.
Right? In the years after the Wexner Heritage Program was launched, other similar efforts followed. In 1987, the Wexner Foundation announced it would begin channeling the $3 to $4 million in grants for the first year of a program that dedicated to the enhancement and improvement of professional leadership in the North American Jewish community. Per the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, Wexner said, quote, Wexner said in an advisory group drawn from among Jewish academicians and communal professionals recommended that attention be focused on three critical groups: rabbis, communal professionals, and educators. These efforts would result in the formal creation of the Wexner Graduate Fellowship in 1988. This guy, he just keeps creating all kinds of orgs. Chairmanship of the Wexner Fellowship Committee was given to Professor Henry Rosofsky. And again, we're going to get into the next half of it and where all of this goes next week. But Gear is saying it's not infiltration if everyone is in the club, it's a gang. Well, that's another way to look at it, but it's not necessarily... They were handpicked, selected, groomed, and usually brought into it well before they had any idea what they were getting involved with.
Which one, Indy? Which one does Mel Brooks play in our movie adaptation? Is the question.
Oh boy.
You know?
Yeah, the Bong Fathers sequel. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Jerry plays Jeffrey. Is that what happens?
Goodness.
No.
Oh yeah. You can gray his hair out.
I feel like it writes itself.
It kind of does.
Mm-hmm.
This is the queen. Yep. This is the queen. We revere. We love Whitney.
Julie Louis Dreyfus to be Jolazane. No.
Whitney Webb again has been a professional writer, researcher, and journalist since 2016. She's written for several websites. She was a staff writer at Mid-Press News, senior investigative reporter there. She currently writes for the Last American Vagabond, and her website is Unlimited Hangout. She also is on Rockfin on the Unlimited Hangout channel. If you are a premium member, you do get access to her podcast 1 week early, and she's just a badass and an absolute encyclopedia. Love that woman to pieces. And she actually has answered a DM of mine once or twice here or there. So I just feel honored that she even acknowledged that I'm out there, because I know there's tons of people that are coming at her for interviews and questions and everything. And protect this woman at all costs is all I'm saying. So that was, yeah. We're 45 in. Yeah, that's what I figured. We're pretty far in. I still got 3 stories to go, but they're shorter stories. Let's see. I'll bet there was a lot of activity in the chat on that one. Yeah, not surprising. Yeah. Yeah, Whitney's just incredible. This book is going to go so deep. I think she said it's almost 800 pages. Order it at Amazon. We'll have links to order it. Fanto, our editor, also just clipped up. Whitney was on AM Wake Up this week. She did an hour and a half with Steve and Pasta. And Pasta put up a couple clips on his Twitter today, at Yo Pasta, Y-O Pasta on Twitter. We also have some clips from the stream that we're going to be putting up. I'm going to go through them, see exactly where they belong, and we're going to talk to Steve about where we're going to put them. Steve Pasta, and figure out we're going to put them on our channel, on their channel, how we're going to do that. Give him credit. That's awesome, though. Again, shout out to Fanto for pulling that off, and shout out to those guys for having Whitney on. She was supposed to do an hour on, it was Thursday morning or Friday morning. She ended up doing an hour and a half, and it was lightning fast. It's worth subscribing to AM Wake Up on Rockfin alone just for that hour and a half. And it's free. AM Wake Up is a free channel. Rockfin.com/AM Wake Up. Scuba Steve, actually, from AM Wake Up, and Slow News Day, who was on today at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern. He was on Reefer After Dark Saturday night with our boy Reef and me. Yeti joined us for the first half. That was a real good time. I enjoyed myself with Steve. He's an acquired taste.
Pasta.
Oh yeah. We had Pasta pop in at the last minute, take a couple rips, and definitely check out that stream. Yep. It was a fun couple hours, and cringe and interesting conversation about Steve being the bad kid, the bad seed in Indiana growing up, and being like the 10, right. 11-year-old kid that's smoking behind the school that everyone warned their mothers and their kids about, And that's not surprising, because we love Steve, and that's not surprising. So, we have one. Let's get to some more stories. Okay. This is our friend. Okay, RJ Eskow. RJ Eskow is awesome, by the way. He has a YouTube program called The 0 Hour. Definitely follow him. It's Richard Eskow, I believe, on Twitter. Published an article in CommonDreams this week, Impossible Politics, Cracker Barrel, and the Future of the Left. And I really thought it was prescient. Instead of mocking the Cracker Barrel crowd, the left should be organizing them against the common threat faced by all working people, the concentrated power of corporations and political elites. And I think this is something that we've all talked about and focused on. All right. And what's happening here, and we're going to get into this here, and I I haven't been paying attention to this because I'm not a normie, and but as many people have heard by now, an online controversy erupted when the aptly named Cracker Barrel restaurant chain added a meatless sausage option to its breakfast menu, a document whose otherwise unhealthy options have arguably mass-produced more arterial cholesterol than any other industrial gourmandizing operation on Earth. He is a wordsmith. George Carlin would have been so proud, seriously. Good job, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Some people have argued that this story doesn't deserve all the attention it's received. I'm not so sure. In fact, I think it hints at a way forward for the American left that may be slathering a lot of portent into what is, after all, just a few thousand people arguing online about breakfast meat. But hear me out. Cracker Barrel, for those who don't know, is a restaurant chain that specializes in reproducing an idealized aesthetic of the rural South, especially as it's been portrayed in films and television. Peaceful, friendly, hillbilly-ish, and white. Each restaurant offers a country store and a just folks serving style. If you've ever seen the old country show the TV show The Waltons, you'll know what I'm talking about. Cracker Barrel announced its new menu option in a Facebook post that read, "Discover new meat frontiers. Experience the out-of-this-world flavor of impossible sausage made from plants next time you build your own breakfast." That triggered a series of outraged posts from right-wing customers with media coverage that highlighted posts like, "Cracker Barrel's gone woke."
Cracker Barrel gone woke. Oh my God.
And this
not
is not
the Cracker Barrel.
This is not the Cracker Barrel that I grew up with.
What are we going to do?
The right-wing commenters were soon swamped by liberals mocking their outrage. It's not, yeah, exactly. It's not like you're being forced to have a baby. Oh,
Yeah.
Right? You know it's really bad when you can't even be pro-choice when it comes to food, said another one. The right wing had its own rejoinders. I'm just over here laughing at the fact that the meatless sausage is next to eggs, wrote one presumably conservative commenter, which is actually kind of a good point.
Yeah. I mean, eggs are okay.
Right, but if you're going to try to stop the... Okay, anyway. The most insightful comment, however, wasn't a jibe. It was this one. Everyone knows this isn't about sausage, right? It's about the fear that their comfortable, traditional world is being left behind. Give them a break. They're just scared. The compassion is...
They want their mouth full of meat, and they can't take it anymore. Like...
Okay, I'm definitely clipping that audio. 100%. All right. The compassion's called for. The world is, in fact, being left behind. Rural America, like most working-class America, is in desperate straits. It's been decimated by opioid addiction and deaths, environmental devastation, and the permanent losses of good jobs. The so-called deaths of despair from alcoholism, overdose, and suicide have torn through white populations there, while rural communities of color have disproportionately suffered from pollution of the air and water. Their jobs have been outsourced, and their communities have been depopulated, and big agriculture has destroyed the family farm. The liberals mocking them online are, in the aggregate, much wealthier than they are. True, in many ways, their world is never really real in the first place. It was a myth constructed in Hollywood and on the campaign trail to keep them pacified. That's the world that Cracker Barrel represents. The intrusion of something strange, even something as benign and environmentally necessary as plant-based food, stands for something else. A world where life-altering decisions are made for them, not by them. Hence the rage against woke corporations. Some of the angry people may be racist, but this is an in-choate rage born of powerlessness, not of racism. Okay, it's a powerless. Okay, here we go. This is Jesse. This is the anthem. Okay, we played Powerless before the show. If this was primarily about race, they wouldn't be calling Cracker Barrel woke for introducing plants to the breakfast menu. Woke to them means elite, powerful, wealthy. We think we know better than you, and we can force you to do things our way. A lot of people, a lot of people whose lives have been ruined by corporations and elites don't even know what wokeism is. They just know that if politicians and corporations are selling it, they don't want it. That rage is why Republicans like Senators Josh Hawley and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are blasting woke corporations and woke elites for what Hawley calls a toxic blend of offshoring and woke politics selling out American workers even as they attack American values. It's very much us versus them. Red versus blue again, while what? They run away with the green. They're all millionaires, by the way, guys. The truth is, rural people should be scared of woke corporations, not because they're woke, but because they're corporations. That's where the left comes in, or at least should. Instead of mocking the Cracker Barrel crowd, the left should be organizing them against the common threat faced by all working people, the concentrated power of corporations and political elites. Instead, too many liberals and Democrats are relying on corporations to be the engines of their social agenda. As long as corporations dominate the economic landscape, corporate action will be useful. Impossible Foods, which makes the Impossible Burger and Impossible Sausage, is funded to the tune of $75 million from, of course, Bill Gates and venture capital. But we desperately need to reduce meat consumption to save the planet, which means that its product is useful and important. But corporate activism can never be a substitute for political activism or raising collective awareness. Corporations will always place profits above all other considerations. To depend on them, in the end, is to serve their interests. It's clear that the current strategy for reaching rural and other working class people dominated by the center-left has failed. A recent New York Times Siena College poll found that, as the Times' Nate Cohn put it, for the first time in a Siena Times national poll, Democrats' share of support from white college graduates was higher than for non-white voters, a remarkable sign of the shift in political energy in the Democratic Party and the coalition. Again, it has shifted educated white. Nor is this shift a whites-only phenomenon. Inflation and the economy are dragging Democrats down among working-class voters, perhaps notably among Hispanic Americans. With his seemingly unfailing capacity for error, James Carville, the Raging Cajun, proclaimed that wokeness is a problem and we all know it. But the problem with woke...
How dare you insult Cajuns that way?
Yeah. Well, that's what he calls himself.
That's what he calls himself. I know. And he is an insult.
And he wears LSU colors and thinks that he speaks for anybody in the South. My God. On MSNBC. God. But the problem with quote-unquote woke corporations isn't the woke part. It's the corporate part. Yes, there's a resistance to change in some cultural circles, not just among evangelical whites, but among Catholic working-class Hispanics and many working-class blacks. But that may also show up as discomfort with rhetoric around certain minority groups, but contra Carville, that's no reason to abandon these groups. In fact, it would be immoral to do so. The center left must give way to the real left, which can reach these groups by explaining how corporation and elites truly exploit them. The problem is the center left is actually benefiting from those exploitations. The cultural resistance to change regarding LGBTQ issues, for example, will fade when people know that the threats to their way of life are being addressed. They don't necessarily care about that stuff if their material concerns are being met. Across the political spectrum, people think this political system doesn't work for them because it doesn't. Real progress can only be made when we stop thinking that any human beings are unreachable and that a better world for all of us is impossible. Ha 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 ha. Nice play on words there, RJ. Dude, he's good. He's good.
Like
you're
Mona,
good, everyone.
In the chat.
Mona, the queen. Mona had a birthday this week. Everybody wish Mona happy birthday. Love you, Mona.
Happy birthday, Mona.
Mona's the best. Nobody would be on this show right now if it weren't for Mona a long time ago.
I mean, I think we've said all that for a long time, you know?
Yeah, I don't...
It is interesting that the weird... It's like when they get mad at Starbucks cups. Like,
yes, this
is frivolous.
Smashing their Keurigs, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, like, okay.
Yeah, all right. Who else we got here? Yes, calling someone a Democrat is definitely an insult in itself, for sure, these days. RJ does have Max Blumenthal on regularly. Good night, John Boy. Good night, Mary Ellen. Good night, Ned. Yes, Eric. from the Three Amigos.
Luann.
Xena, is genuine wokeness the liberal effort to encourage people, including the rural community, to have empathy?
I didn't know my puberty crush was gonna be in the chat.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well,
that's
you
didn't
cool.
watch Xena?
No, it's not with an X. It's with a Z. But that's still a badass warrior princess either way. But yes, wokeness.
True.
You know, I would define, again. Everybody has their own definition, but to me, wokeness is a cultural understanding and empathy of everyone around you, and the fact that not everyone learned the same way that you did. Not everyone had the same opportunities and education that you did. Not everyone had the same background and experiences and exposure to certain things that you did. And a lot of times that's taken for granted by people who have not been exposed to that typically. That's where I would consider wokeism, but it has been turned into a dirty word again by multi-millionaire conservatives, which is freaking hilarious.
It was originally stolen from like the African American thing. Like it's like a cultural thing with that, right?
Of course.
Like historically.
Of course.
Like, and then some fucking Karen stole that shit.
Well,
so
cultural appropriation as always, right? All right.
Yeah.
So, next one. Now we're going to get to some more uplifting stuff. Game and tech workers are unionizing, and this was from LaborNotes, and we covered a LaborNotes story a couple weeks ago that was really good, and Colin's been talking about that the educator up in Brookline, Mass. So here's another one. Video game and tech workers dropping the U word. Yeah, baby. Tender Claws workers and allies showing off the t-shirts they printed by hand with help from a stripper strike organizer, and we famously are supportive of the stripper strike in NoCal, in northern LA. Okay. So at noon on July 17th, Robin's co-workers and she at the video game studio Tender Claws stepped away from their desks. Two of their work-from-home colleagues walked into the office unannounced. Their out-of-state colleagues joined virtually on a laptop. They passed out a letter and read it aloud together. Dear management, we are proud to announce that we are forming the Tender Claws Human Union. 2 weeks later, we obtained voluntary recognition, making Tender Claws the fourth video game studio with a certified union in North America. Our company's small, with a unit of just 11 workers, but our victory joins a nationwide wave of organizing in games and tech. Before 2020, there were virtually no unionized workers in these two industries. Today, there are more than 3,000 of us in the CWA alone. Case in point, on the very day we delivered our petition, quality assurance workers at Blizzard Albany launched their own union drive. This small unit would create a second union toehold in the gaming giant Activision Blizzard, known for titles like Call of Duty and World of Warcraft. Trouble in Paradise.
So, which we know. Designer Dave worked at Blizzard.
Correct.
And
friend of the
talked
network,
about
friend of the show.
The terrible treatment of staff there and the harassment, and they had a whole thing recently. Had to fire a ton of people. So, and then there was the like ritualistic firings where they cut like half the staff, like, one go.
Yeah, well, usually again when they finish a game, that's typically what they do. When they finish producing a game.
Yeah, but this was for for a game. No, this was for Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was like a whole game company that has like multiple games that are continually worked on, right? And then they just fired a ton of people. Like, and technically Activision owns Blizzard, so you're getting this weird like double corporate structure. But Blizzard's terrible, to staff in general.
Right.
Well documented.
So she explains. So Robin explains. I think it's a she, but I can't even say. Robin explains. Game workers make our living building video games. We create 2D and 3D art, compose audio. run quality assurance tests, code game functionality, write character dialogue, design game mechanics, perform customer service, manage communities of game players. Through our labor, our industry has become a financial giant, forecasted to generate $200 billion just this year. All right, and that doesn't even count the professional gaming industry. All right, workers in high-tech jobs are often stereotyped as ping-pong playing elite, but the reality is more complex. Some in our industry do make six figures, but many are paid well below the cost of living and in the country's most expensive cities. Okay, and most of the QA and customer service workers barely clear minimum wage. From Google to Activision Blizzard, our workplaces are divided between full-time employees and an underclass of temps, vendors, and contractors. Work-life balance is notoriously poor for both groups due to crunch, long stretches of overtime in the months or years before the launch of new software. And harassment and discrimination run rampant in workplaces traditionally dominated by straight white men. We unionize Tender Clause as a wall-to-wall unit to reduce crunch, bargain for sustainable career development, and diversify our hiring process. Tender Clause was founded with the intention of being a progressive workplace, and management has made many efforts to act fairly, but we aren't immune from the dynamics of the industry. The vision of a better workplace can only be fulfilled when workers ourselves have a direct say through our union in the decisions that affect us. The problems in games and tech aren't new. Workers have been organizing informally for decades using salary spreadsheets, class action lawsuits, whisper networks, press exposés, and more recently, walkouts. Some of these standalone actions have yielded moderate wins, and over time they develop consciousness in the power of collective action across our industries. When you work in a 0% unionized industry, it can be tempting to remain in this realm of informal organizing. A one-off action has a clean start and end and feels less risky than organizing a union. It's easier to get coworkers to commit to do something only once, and you can get away without forming a proper leadership structure. I'm going to stop right there because Colin is probably screaming at his computer right now. Yes! Because this is the same thing that we've been talking about with the online events and the online conferences. Where is it all going towards? What are we building towards? What's the goal? What's the ask? What's the big win?
Right. What are your demands?
But this cuts both ways.
Yeah.
Standalone actions are easier because they don't fundamentally challenge the balance of power between workers and management. It's hard to hold on to the wins. The moment things cool down and managers no longer feel watched, they can quietly retaliate against troublemakers and restore the status quo.
Yeah.
So fellow organizers and Robin used to refer to suggesting unionization as dropping the U word. They told themselves that if an informal action went really well, they might escalate to unionizing, but that perfect time just never seemed to come. Last fall, after 3 years of their organizing with volunteer groups, a friend gave them some tough love. If you're calling it the U word with me, how could you be ready to say it to a coworker? This was the kick in the butt that I needed. Over the following week, I reached out to coworkers who had participated in collective actions, and I ripped off the Band-Aid. How'd you like to form a union? Within a week, we had a core group of organizers. A few months later, we formed an organizing committee. We made mistakes, we learned a lot, and had plenty of ups and downs. But by June, we had 100% support in our bargaining unit, and by July, we had won union recognition. Sometimes being bold and upfront makes all the difference. Nobody else is going to unionize our industries for us. The grassroots movement, grassroots organization, Game Workers Unite, emerged at an industry trade show in March 2018 in protest of a roundtable called Union Now: Pros, Cons, and Consequences of Unionization for Game Devs. The moderator, a former CEO and then head of a toothless game developer advocacy nonprofit, was clearly not neutral, and as more than 100 angry game workers flooded into the event, it became clear that she was the only one in the room concerned with the cons of unionizing. After the conference, organizers founded Game Workers Unite chapters across the world and funneled our energy into organizing. By running trainings, forming connections with established unions, and building networks of agitated game workers, we sowed the seeds of future unionization. In 2020, the CWA connected with grassroots networks just like Game Workers Unite and brought the support of a major union to the North American game and tech industries. They pooled resources and staff organizers under their campaign to organize digital employees, which is CODE. This effort bore its first fruit in December 2021 when workers at indie game studio Vodeo formed, or Vodeo, I don't know how that's pronounced. Formed.
I think it's Vodeo.
Vodeo, North America's first game workers union. They were followed in 2022 by quality assurance workers at the Activision Blizzard subsidiary Raven Software, which you had just mentioned a little while ago. Outside of video games, the tech industry has had a similar arc. Grassroots Tech Workers Coalition emerged in 2014, advocating for collective action and unionization in much the same way as Game Workers Unite would. Unions at Kickstarter and Glitch won recognition in 2020. And in 2021, workers at Google and other Alphabet subsidiaries formed a militant minority union affiliated with Code CWA. Recently, they surpassed the mark of 1,000 members. So game and tech workers are suffering, and that's reason enough to unionize, right? But there are also strategic benefits for the rest of the labor movement to organizing high-tech workplaces. Why? Because technologies overhaul the working world. Consider high-tech surveillance in warehouses, digitized offices in schools, the apps used to gigify many jobs. Google search, Amazon Web Services, Twitter, used so pervasively that despite private ownership, they've begun to resemble civic infrastructure. The bosses who control the production of these technologies wield more power than most world nations. For workers, the result of all this tech has been to make us less powerful, more isolated, and more closely monitored. But that's not inevitable. Technology could be liberating if the decisions on how it's used weren't left to a small handful of millionaires and billionaires.
Agreed.
By unionizing tech, we can leverage our collective power to improve the world. Imagine if we refuse to use our skills to exploit gig workers, target kids with in-game purchases, or wage wars. The first step is for game and tech workers to reject the lie that we are not like other workers and join our siblings in the labor movement. Strippers and gamers. Okay, again, getting back to our friend Chris Smalls, who was hanging out with them this past weekend. A surprising friendship is flowering between the Southern California game workers and strip club dancers on strike at Star Garden, another group that's not like other workers. Again, makes me think back to the Google commercial. Oh, I'm sorry, the Vince Vaughn movie, Silicon Valley.
Right.
Oh no, what is that? What it was called? The one where they become the internship, or there was some kind of him and Owen Wilson become interns at Google. It's hilarious, but it's a walking commercial for Google. It's a hysterically funny movie. But one of the premises is that they have like a dancer, a stripper / dancer, teaching dance class to the Googlers, and then they all go to a strip club, and one of the guys sees her and he like falls. Oh my God, that's my dance teacher. Organizers with game workers of SoCal have helped produce stripper strike signs and buttons, and we frequently walk their picket lines. Organizers from Stripper Strike helped the Tender Claws Union run a t-shirt making party and supported game workers at Activision Blizzard when they walked off the job in protest of harassment and race and gender discrimination. Solidarity. The contexts are different, but the striking strippers and the workers at Activision Blizzard are fighting for the same vision: safer, fairer workplaces. We have more in common than we think. And I was right. Robin is a she.
Yep.
Awesome. Just great stuff. How they did it, overcoming the fear of the word union and the U word, as they called it. Gamers and strippers are a perfect union, 100%, because gamers traditionally are like shut-ins, but they certainly love the pretty ladies, and usually they don't get their attention because they tend to go for the the jockey guys, but if it's changing and it's flipping on its head, God bless them. God, I love hearing that. And, man, it's just about 30 years too late for me, but my nephew and
I wanted to showcase
my kids. God bless you.
There's a company called their streamers called the Yogscast, and recently for the last I think week or so, they've done back to back streams for indie game development studios, right? Less than 5 people per game worked on all of them.
Wow.
And they picked a whole series of 100 or whatever, and stuff and all these companies are putting the games on sale and stuff like that. But yeah, they do this every year, the Yogs. So
Yogscast?
If you Google it, yep, YOGSCAST, Tiny Teams is what they're calling it. But just a cool way to showcase the smallest stuff. I think they didn't count freelancers, right? Which are all those people you talk about even on a normal game that are yeah, if you're coming in to do the voice of a weird rat like creature, you know what I mean? They're not gonna keep you forever. They're gonna freelance work you. But anyway,
I got one more story, and then we can get to some boats, and it's another union story, another worker story. Let me go back to slideshow, and here we go. And this one is written by the Amazon workers themselves for Popular Resistance, and this was published on August 11th. Urgent appeal for unity and mass action against union busting. We've been talking about this.
Yep.
So here's a group of our friends, the Amazon workers in LA. This is from Reuters. They put this out. And again, this was written by Amazon workers, and I love showcasing the workers themselves, and I love hearing the voice of the people that are actually in the field and in the warehouses and in the trucks driving and that are actually working for Amazon. This is who we need to be talking to and hearing from. And we're going to be very soon. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. The national wave of organizing and militancy spearheaded by Starbucks workers and Amazon workers is the biggest upsurge in worker organizing since the 1930s and 40s. The organizing wave has spread to Trader Joe's, Chipotle, Apple, REI, and a growing list of chain stores and industries, like we just talked about. However, this uprising of workers, which holds the potential of not only saving the labor movement, but transforming it, is under life-threatening attack. We must unite in defense of these brave young workers that are the vanguard of this transformative workers' struggle. We propose these dates for coordinated mass actions across the country. September 5th, Labor Day. Organize a presence at Labor Day marches or organize your own, i.e. Amazon and Starbucks workers are planning to march in New York City, both to Bezos' house and to Howard Schultz's apartment. On Thursday, September 8th, they're planning a national virtual planning meeting for the days of coordinated mass actions. So everybody can dial in, and that'll be it's probably not going to be Zoom because Zoom is hosted on Amazon web servers, but there will be a webinar for people to dial into. On Thursday, September 29th, there's National Coffee Day, which is often promoted by Starbucks. They want to create a direct action for Coffee Day. And then on October 1st, which is the 6-month anniversary of the Amazon Labor Union election victory and International Coffee Day. These are some of the milestones that they want to organize for. The national wave of organizing and militancy spearheaded again by Starbucks workers and Amazon workers. I got that one. From their corporate boardrooms down to their worksite managers, Starbucks and Amazon are engaged in an outright war to crush the organizing wave. No surprise here. Puppies, what? Wait. No, I don't have kitties here. Squirrel. I thought somebody said puppies. I was going to say kitty, but I don't have Warren Kitty over here for some reason. Anyway.
Yeah.
Starbucks is firing union organizers, closing stores, cutting workers' hours, and denying pro-union workers wage increases and benefits. Starbucks workers are fighting back. Starbucks Workers United is still winning union elections all over the country and flexing its muscles with walkouts and strikes. Woohoo! Shout out to Starbucks United. Amazon is determined to overturn the historic April 1st Amazon labor union victory in New York City and crush the ALU. At the same time, new ALU chapters are forming around the country. The Amazon workers in North Carolina have formed Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment cause and are getting stronger every day. Amazon workers everywhere, including Amazonians United and the RWDSU in Alabama, are coming together in spite of their different approaches to organizing. However, in order for these groundbreaking battles to defeat union busting, immensely greater forces must join together and strengthen them. Howard Schultz and Jeff Bezos are this year's poster boys for union busting, but efforts to crush the workers' uprising are by no means limited to Starbucks and Amazon. Wall Street and the U.S. capitalist class are fully behind this war to destroy a new workers' movement before it spreads further. Our response to this threat must be equal to the danger. It's going to require a level of mass solidarity and mass mobilization in defense of workers on the front line greater than anything we've ever seen in our lifetimes. Unified organizing and widespread mass solidarity is absolutely central to the continuation of this historic transformation of the working class movement. At stake is nothing less than the long-awaited and necessary evolution of of the working class movement from its present weak state to a more radical, militant, inclusive, and class-wide movement that is led by rank-and-file workers, is not dominated by business unionism, is not dependent on or subservient to the Democratic Party, and views all struggles as workers' struggles, including the fight against racism, access to abortion, the anti-war struggle, the struggle to stop climate disaster, and the struggle for LGBTQ 2S plus rights. That's a new one. I don't know what that 2S is, but I know all the other ones.
I don't either.
Okay, I just heard echo. What'd you just do different?
Nothing.
Okay. Also, is a vital part of the struggle against evictions and all community struggles. We talked about that recently. I've been helping somebody who's been struggling with eviction herself. Prioritizes the most oppressed workers, including migrant workers. Also, who wants to be part of a militant global workers movement and is strong enough to smash the threat of fascism. A growing section of the left is now engaged in varying levels of solidarity work with these critical worker struggles, but as of yet, the left's commitment to this struggle is alarmingly insufficient. While some of the organized labor movement are taking the need for solidarity against union busting seriously, unfortunately, most of the top leadership of the labor movement remain unmoved by this threat and have focused on electoral politics and reliance on the Democratic Party. This is not good, and it must change. Now's the time to intensify the pressure to compel that change. And there's a petition and a website that you can sign on to get involved. Again, I'll drop that in the chat now. Copy link URL. All right, so everybody can sign up and join. I've already registered my email address, of course, there. And solidarity with all these workers. Now, there is a little bit of an update to this story, which was sent to me tonight by a new friend. Let me just go grab that real quick. On Twitter, he tweeted it to me, and then I'll open up the article. But there was an article on World Socialist website published a couple days ago. What? Huh? Oh, Les Bones. What?
Don't get distracted.
No, okay.
Don't get distracted.
Hold on, I'm looking for the thing
you
right
can do
now.
it.
I'm looking for it. I'm here.
Right there.
I got it. But I saw the other thing, and I'm like, whoa, what's that? But okay.
That's why I said don't get distracted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm just going to show you the headline here. We're not going to go through the whole article, but real quick. This is a concern. Amazon Labor Union suspends unionizing efforts in New York as Amazon continues its legal bid to overturn the election at JFK Warehouse. This was published 4 days ago in World Socialist website.
Yep.
Why? To focus on the lawsuit. Even though the NLRB has already held hearings and they'll make a decision within weeks. So remains to be seen what's going on here. WSWS condemns Amazon challenge of the vote and demands that the democratic will of Amazon workers be respected. And again, I have mixed feelings about World Socialist website. They've done some really good stuff. Also some stuff that I'm not crazy about. But here they're talking about that they are not doing very great since April 1st, and that they would support union. ALU announced that it would support unionization facilities in all these other locations, Albany and Campbellsville, and Chris pledged to give two workers at two locations whatever they need, and said they'd become formal chapters of the ALU. Again, we'll see what happens there also, and stay tuned here. But this was a really upsetting development to read today when I heard about this. But we're continuing to track and follow the story. So that is the 5 news stories I had. About an hour and a half. This was good. Everybody like what we got? Jimmy, how are you? Good to see you. Anthony, everybody's here hanging out. It's great. 29 people watching live on YouTube's. How we doing on the Rockfins? Got some people over there. 7 people live on the Rockfins. We're over on Rumble. We got some people. Looks like just me. How am I the only person watching on Rumble? Come on, everybody. Rumble.com/IndieNews.Network. INDIE News Network. Everybody, go give us a sub over there. Go check out Indie News Network on Rumble. That is another platform that does not censor. Well, they kind of don't censor. If you don't talk about Israel, I guess that they won't censor you. But anyway, I think I'm ready for some eye bleach. Anybody have anything else, Reef? Anything else on any of those stories you wanted to add there?
Not really. I think that's just about everything. But yeah. So you ready for boats?
Yeah.
And I watch mindless shit, boats that smash into other boats.
Whee! Ears better? Okay. Where you at?
Right here. I got boats. Look, there's boats. Why is it feels more zoomed in than it should be?
That's your whip. That's your little zoomy guy.
There we go. Cool. So this Italian businessman's $24 million super yacht had a pool. Had a pool, goes up in flames in Italia. So this is months after it was delivered. This whole thing just goes up.
Boats burning other boats.
Yeah. It's funny because there's 2 angles. People definitely needed to see this billionaire's yacht burning. We have a secondary angle of later.
Oh wow, that is charred to a crisp. They just let it out there and just let it go. Let it go. They didn't even try to put it out.
No, yeah, I mean,
let it burn.
I mean, yeah, nice seeing rich man toys burn. I'm sure that's great for the environment, but
Yeah.
These are great for the environment. Look at those.
Nuggies.
They're dense.
Thick nuggies.
Like, yes, please. So I think these are shrooms. Like,
what? Oh.
Like, I think these are shrooms.
Well, the cat certainly is going to have a good time.
Yeah, if he makes it. But it takes 8 minutes and 17 seconds for light to travel from the sun to the earth, but only 2 seconds for me to light this blunt.
Nice.
Old Bill Nye, you know?
The highest guy. Bill Nye, the highest guy. Shout out to
Bill Nye,
one of the members of our community.
Bill. So when the edibles kick in and you start feeling giggity, like,
oh, hey,
why is he like that?
Nice.
Looks like Jimmy Carr in a weird way,
giggity.
doesn't it? But this is just a cool piece. You know, you just find them on Reddit occasionally.
Wait, you're blocking it,
like,
or I'm blocking it. You moved it over.
Am I?
You and your Zoom thingy. Yeah, there
I
we go.
click it on accident. It's on my mouse. Like,
that's a lot of smoky smoke. What is that substance down at the bottom? Is that?
I think it's just the glass.
Oh,
The
it
glass
is clear
just brown.
water. Yeah, that is clear water.
Yeah.
As one monstrous ash catcher. It's like the size of your hand.
Percolation, son. Gotta get percolated. What else I got? You can use pasta as a filter. Just figured, you know, since we had pasta on the show last Friday.
Like
you know what I
rotini.
mean?
Nice.
Yep. Just in case people needed one and didn't have one. When the conference call is audio only, well, I feel like you'll understand this, you know? Like, oh, we don't need webcams. Cool. I can just light up.
And mute,
you know?
and mute in between coughs. That's right. What? Wait, what? No, I didn't. I've never done anything like that, and I deny anything like that.
You deny it?
I absolutely, wholeheartedly, vehemently deny any what? Nothing. What? I admit to nothing.
I love the music, but I had to fucking pull it in a bit.
I don't hear it.
No?
No.
Okay.
That's a nice.
Why do these things happen?
That's a nice dab,
Like,
and that's like a little marble paperweight cover thingy for the rig.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
Can you hear it now?
Nope.
That's not good. Why is that happening? Like, everything's right. Let me check OBS real quick. Cable B input, yes. Yeah, it's going through there. It should be going through to you. Why is it not?
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything, so I can't really answer that, but
Okay. Maybe it's just quiet.
nice. That is Mick Jizzle. Mick Jizzle.
Yeah.
I love it.
But let's see if you can hear. Where is SoundPad at? I wonder quizzically. Because I can have soundboards as well that you need to be able to hear at some point. Did you hear that?
No.
The little Windows noise?
Nope.
That's not good. Hold on. Let's look at audio switcher and then I hope Windows didn't change every sound setting.
So let's see.
Making that noise.
Kelly M met Bill Nye in the 1990s, and he was warning the kids about climate change and pollution, and sadly, he was right. Yeah, Bill Nye. Sometimes he was smart. He was right. Nye Begley. Oh God, Ed Begley. Yeesh. Okay. Sure. Mr. Compost himself.
Yeah.
You're, I think you're over on the other channel, which is why you're sad and dosing. Sounds like you're kind of weekend Jimmy. Okay. Colin says, Unity! Yes, I will do that for him, and I'll blow out everybody's ears. Eric, I don't know if Eric's out there. Eric always yells that Boats is always so loud. I tried to lower that earlier tonight. Hopefully that did come down in volume. Tech Union's very cool. Yes, they are. That's a puppo. Okay, now we're back to our McJizzle, but I still don't hear anything. Now I don't hear.
That's not good that we can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why you can't. That's the problem. Let me look at sounds. And try playing. So it's just not going into cable input.
I'm sure this is fascinating for people watching, but nothing we can do right now.
We might have to just kill the stream if I don't get sound working.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Ooh, that's a lot of tabs up there too. That would be.
Yeah.
I
can save them.
Horrible.
Yeah. I'll save them and we can do them again. But yeah, unfortunately, tech problems.
We've got some audio issues, fams.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Okay. Wrong one. Wait. Oh, that's the wrong box. We're on the wrong show. Now we got the right show. Hey, now we got it. See, that's my Jesse show. You get the American tradition background for a second. Jesse made a brief appearance. Wow, that's kind of bummer.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. Again, so this week we have got a very busy week. Tara's got a couple streams Monday night and Tuesday night. You may see a surprise stream pop up from me and Colin doing an interview with somebody in the next couple days. Don't want to say who or how or when. We're still working that out. Wednesday, INN News. And Friday night, maybe a Reefer After Dark, maybe a week off, maybe a different show. We don't know. Saturday night, I think, is going to be Oz, Beauty and the Boomer. Definitely, they do a show. One of these weeks, Jimmy's actually going to start doing a show, and we talked about maybe doing Saturday night there. Jesse and I also talked about doing like a Saturday night type of stream, midnight stream once a month. So stay tuned for maybe something about that. We have a lot of ideas and a lot of things in our heads, just a question of what we can execute. But yeah, thank you to everybody who's been hanging out tonight. This was a lot of fun to go through these stories. Definitely to read the Whitney Webb stuff. And we will definitely cover the other half of her article that she published in Unlimited Hangout. Again, everybody go to Unlimited Hangout. After the stream, I will update the descriptions and the Substack to have all the links to all the articles, the petition for Amazon workers. And yeah, so that's what's happening here. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing all right. I wish my audio worked, but
I'm still looking at the McJizzle.
Other than that, yeah. I can fix that.
Nice. So I think I pretty much I got some things to put out. The podcast for last week still needs to be done. We have, if you didn't see, Tuesday night we did a stream for Warren. It was Jesse and I for American Tradition, and it was Warren Palooza. Go back and watch that. He played about 25 covers from all different genres. We laughed, we cried. We raised over $100 for Warren. It was inspiring, and it was fantastic to hear. And we're going to probably be doing another one of those. That's what we're talking about, maybe for the Saturday night thing, or we're going to dedicate one of his streams every month to doing one of those. We're still trying to figure it all out, but love that dude. And love you, Warren. Appreciate you. Glad you're on your way back and starting to get yourself back into it. We're excited about that. And Jimmy said she's going to fill in, take over for Warren's spot till he comes back. That's great. Love seeing that. Whatever we can do to support and get you going there on INN, that'll be great. So I pretty much toast for tonight. And again, we get a little bit early tonight. Unfortunately, Boats is a little shortened and audio tech issues, but wanted to thank everyone for being here. What do you have going on this week besides INN News? You gonna do Reefer After Dark Friday?
I should be doing one. Nice. I'll reach out to some people that I have on the Twitters and see what guests I can pull together. So keep an eye on Twitter, and I'll let people know when that's happening.
Also, Camp Dada.
I think that's it.
Yeah, Camp Dada is going to be happening soon. Yep. Support that. Lucy from Blue Moon Red Wine from INN, Bank Sisters, and a bunch of other organizers are putting together this fun event in the Hamptons to go camping and talk about some strategies and maybe cause a little fun disruptions. Who knows what's going to happen out there, but they're really just getting together to camp and to meet each other and to have solidarity and to take what we're doing online and bringing it to the offline and to the human beings out there. So that's going to be fun. Okay, now I'm hearing myself as an echo. You must be close to your mic again. Damn it. Anyway, so I'm going to sign off. And again, I'm hearing echo, and I don't know why, but now I am. And I'm going to sign off and say to question everyone's motivations and say goodnight, everyone. And Mr. Reefy?
Keep listening to what little birds have to tell you, everyone. Good night, fam.
I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines. And when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So